overture by the famous Russian poet, novelist, singer, songwriter Bulat Okjava. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're going to turn now to Edward Snowden in his own words. In his first interview with the Guardian newspaper, Edward Snowden described why he risked his career to leak the documents.
I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are outside of the democratic model. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy. And if you do that in secret consistently, as the government does when it wants to benefit from a secret action that it took, it'll kind of give its officials a mandate to go, hey, tell the press about this thing and that thing, so the public is on our side. But they rarely, if ever, do that when an abuse occurs. That falls to individual citizens, but they're typically maligned. It becomes a thing of these people are against the country, they're against the government. But I'm not. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and goes, this is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth. This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this. That's
Edward Snowden in his own words. Again, he has left the Russian airport. He has been granted temporary asylum by Russia for a year. The reports are, though it is not known where he is right now, that he met Americans online who offered that he could stay with them, and it's believed that's where he is right now, though we don't know all the details. We're joined by Republican Congressmember Thomas Massie of Kentucky and Democratic Congressmember Amash-Conyers, ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. In a lot of the media, a tremendous amount is made of how Republicans and Democrats are not cooperating at all right now. Complete breakdown on Capitol Hill. But here you both are, Congress members Massie and Conyers, standing together. And it's not just the two of you. You're not outliers. This legislation, the growing Democratic-Republican criticism of the intelligence state now is increasing. And I was wondering, Congressmember Massie, if you could explain what the next step is. You have the amendment that was defeated by just a few votes to stop the funding of the NSA spying on American phone calls. What is H.R. 2399? What's the next step?
Well, I'm not sure what the number is, but there's a bill called the Liberty Act. That's a very good bill that I believe Congressman Conyers is on and Justin Amash, that would raise the threshold and require that there's some reasonable suspicion, articulable reasonable suspicion, and also would give us more transparency, Congress, more transparency into the goings-on of the FISA court. That bill, we're hoping, because of the public outcry, will get a hearing at least in the Judiciary Committee, and it should possibly get a hearing in the Intelligence Committee. And that's what we need. We need more hearings on this, hopefully a markup, and bring that bill. This measure barely failed, the amendment barely failed by 7 votes. I think if the vote were today and the members who voted no could do it over, I think this amendment would pass, because they misjudged the public outcry on this issue. And you played a tape of Mr. Snowden, and the one thing he said that I do agree with is that the public deserves to know about this program. And the public does know about it. The public knows how their members voted last week, and that will give us the momentum to get these standalone bills like the Liberty Act passed.
Congressmember Conyers, 2399, can you explain the new standalone bill you're co-sponsoring?
Well, what we're really trying to do is make sure that there's relevancy observed and that it's made clear that we cannot massively collect metadata on everybody in the country. This is what's alarming people, and this is why we have the wind at our backs now because people are concerned about it. During the August recess, there'll be town hall meetings all over the place on this. And people will be learning what we couldn't have learned otherwise. Now, the person that leaked it may be an overzealous a leaker. I don't think he had criminal motives, but he sure violated the law, and the Judiciary Committee, which I think our Chairman Goodlatte will be willing to hold these hearings in the fall when we come back to tighten up the law and make it clear that if a person is not involved in any suspicious activity, they shouldn't be, their names or their phone numbers shouldn't be collected.
I want to turn to NSA Director Keith Alexander, speaking last year at the Aspen Security Forum. He was questioned by NBC's Pete Williams about the NSA's collection of data on Americans.
I want to ask you one other question about privacy, and read to you a statement from a former NSA employee named William Binney, who recently told a hackers conference that the NSA is putting together dossiers on every U.S. citizen, listing who we have relations with, what our activities are. Is there any truth to that, and why do stories like this persist, that you're spying on all of us?
Yeah. First of all, it's not true. We aren't putting dossiers up on every U.S. citizen. In fact, we don't have a dossier on you. I've never seen one of your emails from an intelligence perspective or otherwise, actually. So from my perspective, these are grossly out of the truth. They really are. To think that we would be collecting on every U.S. person, one, that would be against the law. Two, we get great oversight by all branches of the government. You know, I must have been bad when I was a kid. We get supervised by the Defense Department, not just the General Counsel, by the DNI, their General Counsel, so they see everything that we do, by the Justice Department, by the White House, by Congress, SISI and HIPSI, and by the court. So all branches of government can see that what we're doing is correct. And so my concern is that false statements like these seem to persist, and you see those bounce around. And it only hurts because people think, well, they must have something there, and there must be some element of truth there. And from my perspective, when you walk all the way through this, the reality is Congress knows we're not doing that. All branches of our government see that we're not doing it, and all of them can audit it. So from my perspective, it's, you know, I would add that to Bill McRaven's. Not only should we stop leaks, but we should stop reporting this clearly not right.
Congressmember Conyers, your response to that's the director of the NSA, General Keith Alexander.
Well, Mr. Alexander told so many whoppers in one statement that it's hard to recount them all. First of all, this information isn't available to anybody. We only got it through a person that took it improperly and made it public. So the whole idea that they're not doing this, I hope that, well, I don't suppose he can announce a way to modify what he said, but it's clearly untruthful from beginning to end.
Congressmember Massie, I'd like you also to respond. And also, just as the Obama administration brought out the heavy hitters to defeat any kind of curtailing of the NSA's spying mechanism last week, the establishment Republicans almost came out. You're a new Congress member. You were elected in 2012. You have, for example, Senator McCain hitting the lot of you very hard who are saying that the NSA has to be, what they're doing has to be modified and surveilled itself.
Well, let me go back to whether these people should keep their jobs or not. You could probably parse General Keith Alexander's words, and somebody could argue that he wasn't lying, but I would say that he was definitely misleading the public on that issue. But the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, was here in March and unambiguously lied to Congress. And I believe he was under oath, and it really sets a bad precedent for the whole organization to let him keep his post. I think he should be relieved of his post for lying to Congress. He could have picked other words to say. He could have said that I can't comment on that. Instead, he chose to lie to us in a hearing.
Could he be brought up on charges of perjury?
Well, look, if this were any American citizen or civilian, they would certainly be prosecuted for what he just did. At a minimum, he should lose his post.
Do you agree with that, Congressmember Conyers?
Yes, ma'am, I do, completely. And I think we're now at the point of having more honest disclosure of what's going on in our intelligence community, which we now find was very deliberately ignoring parts of the law that they knew perfectly well they were violating.
Just a point of history, Roger Clemens was brought up on perjury charges for lying to Congress in 2008 around steroids. I mean, this seems to be a key area. In fact, Clapper himself admitted that he did not tell the truth.
Look, if we accept the premise that it's okay for government to lie to us, or for one branch of the government to lie to the other branch of the government in order to protect our public safety, then we've crossed the threshold. We cannot accept that it's okay for government to lie to us to protect us.
Yes. We can't turn into a surveillance state trying to protect these kinds of conduct that we all know is improper and probably illegal.
Do you sense something very different than we're getting in the media, that there is a bipartisan convergence now that's happening that isn't getting reported, that the Obama administration is deeply concerned about? And do you have a sense that they are shifting here, that they're feeling the pressure?
I think that they might be, because I was in the White House yesterday, full disclosure, and the President of the United States said that he was going to give me a call, and I'll be looking forward to that call. And they know that things are happening, but you know, we frequently work together on issues, but they don't get reported or disclosed. There is bipartisanship at times. We're trying to improve it, and I think that we're moving into a better environment in the House of Representatives.
I agree, and I can also say that yesterday we were briefed in a classified briefing by General Keith Alexander, and his tone seemed to be a lot more conciliatory and a lot more open, because they realize if they're going to keep these programs around, or some form of these programs, they've got a public relations problem to deal with and a relations problem with Congress, both parties of Congress.
Exactly.
Before we go, Congressmember Conyers, I wanted to ask you about Detroit and the declaration of bankruptcy. Do you feel the federal government should bail out Detroit now?
Well, I don't know if we're in a position to do that. What we're doing in the Michigan congressional delegation, Democratic, is looking at a whole list of programs that would assist Detroit. And what we're trying to determine is whether we've applied for them first, and secondly, whether there's any possibility of benefiting from them. And the thing that we're most concerned about is protecting the pensions of those people who've worked 30, 40 years for the city. And fortunately, pensions are constitutionally protected in the Michigan Constitution, And again, we have bipartisan support. The Attorney General of Michigan, a Republican, has come out in support of protecting the pensions. So we're down, but we're not out, and we're going to rise again.
Well, I want to thank you both very much for being with us. Republican Congressmember Thomas Massie of Kentucky, elected in 2012. Democratic Congressmember John Conyers, ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. And we will certainly continue to follow the legislation that you are introducing. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We'll be back in a minute.